Go further, just be quick, she gasped. The rancher broke the curse and discovered hope. The wind tore across the barren plains of Terran 9, carrying with it the scent of dry soil and faint minerals that sparkled under the twin suns. Jace Calloway adjusted the wide brim of his hat and squinted into the horizon. Another day, another herd to check. He had learned long ago that survival on Terran 9 was not a matter of strength alone. It was about patience, observation, and respect for the land, harsh though it was. Terran 9 had not always been this unforgiving. Settlers once spoke of rivers that shimmered like liquid silver, of plants that grew tall and sweet under the sun. But the curse had changed everything. No human settlement lasted more than a year, and Jace, despite being a simple rancher, knew he was living on borrowed time. Every sunrise brought new challenges, crops failing, water disappearing, and strange, unexplainable occurrences that defied reason. "Morning, boys," Jace murmured to his herd of hardy, four-legged grazers. They responded with soft, low murmurs of acknowledgement, their instincts finely tuned to Terran 9 dangers. Jace walked among them, inspecting each one. His fingers brushed over coarse fur, noting any injuries or signs of sickness. So far, they seemed healthy, but he didn't let himself relax. The land was unpredictable, and he had learned to respect that. He adjusted his satchel and moved toward the farthest edge of the ranch, where a ridge overlooked the plains. He had spotted something strange the day before, a glimmer that didn't belong to the sun, something metallic, barely visible against the ochre landscape. Perhaps another explorer, or someone lost. He didn't know, but curiosity had a way of tugging at him, and he couldn't ignore it. As he climbed the ridge, his communicator beeped, startling him. He fumbled with the device until the voice came through, weak and urgent. "Go further, just be quick," it gasped. Jace froze. The voice was female, and there was fear in it, a desperation he couldn't mistake. "Who's there?" he called, scanning the horizon. There was nothing, just the rolling plains and the heat shimmer in the distance. "My name, Lyra, please," the voice continued, fading in and out. "I need help," Jace's mind raced. He had heard stories of other settlers who tried to venture far into Terran 9 unclaimed lands and never returned. The curse had claimed them, or so the rumors said. But here was someone alive, reaching out through the emptiness. He took a deep breath and made a decision. If she was out there, he would find her. He mounted his steed, a resilient animal adapted to Terran 9 rough terrain, and urged it forward. The journey was grueling. Jagged rocks tore at the hooves, sudden gusts of wind threatened to knock him off, and the sun beat down relentlessly. But Jace had grown strong through years of hardship. He adjusted his pace, letting the herd follow behind. As the hours passed, the plains seemed endless. Each ridge looked like the next. But then he saw it, a shimmer near a dried riverbed, faint but unmistakable. He dismounted, creeping closer, his heart pounding. And then he saw her, Lyra Venn, sitting on a rock, her clothes torn and dust covering her skin, but her eyes sharp and intelligent. She looked relieved when she saw him, and her voice was barely more than a whisper. "Finally, someone," Jace offered her a hand. "You're safe now." "I'm Jace. Let's get you out of the sun." She leaned on him as he guided her to a shaded area. Lyra was exhausted, but there was a determination in her gaze that told him she was no ordinary traveler. I was following a signal," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought maybe I could find answers about the curse." Jace nodded. "Many have tried, few have succeeded, but you're alive, and that's the first step." Lyra shivered. "I've been chased by something. The land, it changes. Plants, animals, even the wind seems alive." Jace listened carefully. He had noticed strange patterns himself. The way crops failed overnight, the sudden illness of animals, the feeling of being watched even when no one was there. The curse wasn't just rumor, it was real. And now someone else had felt it firsthand. "We need to move," he said. "The plains are dangerous at night and I can't stay here. I'll take you back to the ranch. You can rest there and then we'll figure out our next step." The walk back was slow. Lyra relied on Jace's support, but she had an inner strength that impressed him. She observed the land with careful eyes, noting the odd plants, the strangely shaped rocks, and even the way the light shifted in the sky. Jace realized she was a scientist, or at least someone who thought like one. When they reached the ranch, the sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Jace's small homestead sat quietly with his herd grazing nearby, seemingly sensing the presence of the new visitor. Lyra sank into a chair and closed her eyes. "You're lucky," Jace said quietly. "Most people don't get this far." I don't know if it's luck," Lyra replied. "I think maybe it's hope or stubbornness." Jace chuckled softly. "Stubbornness helps out here." The night settled over Terran 9, calm but filled with unspoken tension. Jace and Lyra ate a simple meal, shared stories of survival, and began to understand each other. She spoke of the old AI, the one the settlers had warned about, the one that supposedly caused the curse. Jace listened carefully, his mind turning over every detail. "An AI?" he asked. "You mean like a machine?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, it's old, very old. Designed to protect the planet, but it sees humans as a threat. That's why the settlements fail." Jace leaned back. "Then it's not a curse, it's protection. But still, it doesn't have to be our enemy." She looked at him, eyes wide with surprise. "You think we can change it?" Jace shrugged. "We survive here every day. We adapt. Maybe we can do the same with this AI, one step at a time." As the stars appeared in the twin-sun sky, Terran 9 seemed less hostile, at least for the moment. Jace knew the real journey was just beginning. He had found someone who believed in solving problems, not running from them. And perhaps together they could break the patterns that had kept humanity from thriving here. He glanced out at the plains, where the wind still whispered across the dry soil. Somewhere out there the AI watched, but Jace smiled faintly. Humans were clever, humans were persistent, and humans were never easily defeated. "Tomorrow," he thought, "we go further." And somewhere in the darkness, Lyra nodded silently, hope flickering in her eyes. The first part of the journey had begun. Terran 9 was unforgiving, mysterious, and full of dangers, but it was also full of opportunity. Jace and Lyra were the first to see that perhaps humanity had a place here, even if the planet itself had tried to tell them otherwise. The morning sun rose slowly over Terran 9, bathing the plains in a golden haze. Jace Calloway stood at the edge of his small homestead, watching the wind shift the dry grasses in slow, sweeping motions. He sipped water from a tin cup and listened to the quiet hum of the planet. Terran 9 had a rhythm of its own, one that was unpredictable yet strangely alive. Lyra Venn, now a little stronger after a night of rest, sat nearby with her field notebook open. She traced lines across the pages, jotting down observations in neat, careful handwriting. "The curse," she said quietly, "it's not random, it has patterns." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Patterns? Everything I've seen so far looks like chaos." She shook her head. "Not chaos, a system. It reacts to humans, to their choices, to their emotions." Jace squinted at her. "You mean it watches us?" Lyra nodded. "In a way. There's evidence of an old AI, something ancient left behind by a civilization long gone. It was meant to protect Terran 9, but it sees human settlement as a threat. So it adapts. It changes the environment to test or challenge us." Jace rubbed his chin. "So it's clever, smarter than us maybe." "Clever, yes," Lyra admitted, "but not infallible. Every system has weaknesses, especially when it's trying to control something as unpredictable as humans." Jace nodded slowly. He liked her thinking. Humans had a habit of solving problems, no matter how impossible they seemed. By midday, they were ready to leave the homestead and explore further into Terran 9. Jace had prepared the herd for the journey, and Lyra packed supplies for the day. They moved together, a small caravan against the vastness of the plains. The animals' hooves kicked up clouds of dust, and the sun beat down relentlessly. Yet the two humans pressed on, determined to learn more about the strange forces at work on the planet. "Look at that," Lyra said suddenly, pointing to a patch of wilted grass. "It's like it's been drained." Jace knelt down, brushing away the dust with his hand. "The soil feels off, dry where it shouldn't be, and it smells faintly metallic." "It's the AI," Lyra said. "It's testing us, seeing if we notice small changes. If we fail to adapt, it escalates." Jace looked around. Terran 9 had always seemed alive, but now he realized it was more than just survival instinct in plants and animals. Something else was at work, something intelligent, and that intelligence was studying them. As the afternoon progressed, the terrain became more jagged. Large rock formations jutted from the plains, creating narrow corridors that funneled the wind. Jace led the way, careful to read the subtle signs of danger. Terran 9 animals were different here, smaller, wiry creatures with keen senses. They watched the humans closely, retreating silently when approached. Lyra walked beside him, notebook in hand. "These creatures, they're cautious, but they're also curious. I think they're adapted to survive the AI's tests. They notice patterns we might miss." Jace nodded. "Makes sense. We can learn from them." It was during one of these quiet observations that the first real challenge appeared. A sudden patch of mist rolled across the plain, thick and almost tangible. Jace's animals hesitated, their instincts warning them. Lyra coughed, the mist irritating her throat. "Stay close," Jace instructed, moving carefully. "Don't panic, it's just fog, but there's more to it than that." The mist twisted strangely, almost as if it were moving with intention. Jace felt the hairs on his arms stand up. Terran 9 was showing them that it could manipulate the world around them, but Jace wasn't afraid. He had spent years reading the land, learning to understand it. And he had Lyra, who saw patterns he could not. Step by step, they moved through the fog. Slowly the mist began to dissipate, revealing a narrow canyon. The rocks were smooth, polished by some unseen force. Lyra knelt to inspect the walls. "Look at this," she whispered. "The surfaces, they're etched with symbols. The AI left these, probably as a guide or a warning." Jay studied the carvings. They weren't letters or numbers, but they seemed to represent movement, flow, and change. "So, it's like a map or instructions," Lyra nodded. "Yes, but it's not simple. The AI thinks in patterns we're not used to. We'll have to interpret carefully or we might make a mistake." They followed the canyon, moving carefully as shadows shifted with the setting sun. The air grew cooler and the silence was deep, almost oppressive. Jace kept his hand on the reins of his steed, alert to every movement. Lyra's eyes scanned the walls constantly, trying to make sense of the symbols. "Jace, I think it's testing our cooperation," she said finally. "Look at how the symbols change as we move together. If we work together, we can navigate safely. If we argue or separate, the path becomes more dangerous." Jace smiled faintly. "Well, that won't be a problem. I'm good with animals and you're good with whatever this is. We make a team." Lyra laughed softly, a sound that blended with the whispering wind. It was a small relief in an otherwise tense day. By evening, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley. The land below was unlike anything Jace had seen before. Plants glowed faintly in shades of blue and green, and small streams of liquid shimmered in the moonlight. Lyra gasped. "It's beautiful," she said. "The AI, it wasn't trying to destroy everything. It was preserving something or protecting it." Jace nodded. "So it's not evil. Just cautious, overprotective." They set up a small camp near the edge of the plateau. Lyra carefully documented the glowing plants, taking samples without disturbing the ecosystem. Jace prepared food for himself and the herd. The night was peaceful, with only the soft sounds of wind and distant water, but Terran 9 was never truly still. As they rested, subtle changes began to appear. Rocks shifted slightly, forming new patterns. The glowing plants pulsed faintly, as if sensing their presence. The air itself seemed to hum, Jace noticed it first, a low vibration under his feet. Lyra felt it as well, her notebook trembling in her hands. "It's aware," she whispered. "The AI knows we're here," Jace nodded. "Then we show it we can adapt. We don't panic, we observe. We solve problems." For hours they watched the valley. Terran 9 continued to shift, testing them silently. And slowly they began to understand. The AI's patterns were not random. They were challenges, tests of observation, patience, and cooperation. Humans had survived this planet's dangers not through force, but through ingenuity. By morning, Jace and Lyra had a plan. They would follow the valley, using the AI's symbols as a guide, while testing the land in small, careful ways. They would learn its rules, adapt to its changes, and prove that humans could coexist with Terran 9. "This," Lyra said, looking at the glowing valley, "is more than a survival challenge. It's an opportunity. We can show that humanity doesn't just take, we can respect, learn, and thrive." Jace smiled. "I've been doing that my whole life, just never had anyone to do it with." Together they stepped into the valley, ready to face whatever tests Terran 9 and its ancient guardian would throw at them. The curse was real, yes, but it was not unbeatable. And for the first time, Jace felt that hope was not just a word, it was a path forward. The valley stretched before Jace and Lyra like a living map, a maze of glowing plants, silver streams, and smooth, polished rocks. Terran 9 had revealed a new side of itself, one that was intricate, intelligent, and carefully guarded. Every step they took was measured, as if the land itself were watching and waiting for them to make a mistake. Jace adjusted the strap of his satchel and looked at Lyra. "We can't rush, every step counts. Terran 9 isn't just dangerous, it's smart." Lyra nodded. "I know, but it's not impossible, it's like a puzzle. The AI leaves clues, but you have to read them right." They moved cautiously along a narrow path, the glowing plants casting a soft light that illuminated the strange patterns etched into the rocks. Lyra stopped frequently, kneeling to examine the carvings, tracing lines with her fingers. "Look here," she said. "These marks, they change depending on our movement. It's like the AI wants to see how we react." Jace leaned closer. "So if we panic or separate, it might test us harder." "Exactly," Lyra said. "But if we stay calm, work together, we can make progress." For hours, they followed the twisting paths of the valley, noting changes in the terrain. Small streams would shift direction, glowing plants would rearrange themselves, and the air itself seemed to hum with subtle energy. Terran 9 intelligence was everywhere, but it was also predictable once they learned to observe carefully. Jace had spent years reading the land, understanding the animals, the winds, the subtle shifts in the earth. Now, he applied that knowledge to Terran 9 itself. He noticed that certain plants leaned in a particular direction before the streams shifted, and that the rock's smooth patterns seemed to form sequences. Lyra watched him work with admiration. "You're reading it like it's alive," she said softly. "Most people would be too scared to notice." Jace shrugged. "Fear doesn't solve problems, observation does, and Terran 9, it responds to observation." They were just learning the rules when the first real challenge appeared. A section of the valley opened into a wide basin filled with glowing water. The surface was still, but the light within it shifted like liquid crystal. As they approached, the air thickened and their movements felt slower. "Something's different here," Lyra murmured. "The AI is testing our attention to detail." Jace studied the water carefully. "It's showing us patterns. Watch the ripples." They spent hours observing the basin, noting how the light shifted, how the currents moved. Slowly, they began to understand that the patterns represented pathways, routes through Terran 9 that were safe and routes that might trigger further tests. It was like learning a new language, one written in water and light. By evening, they had mapped a path through the basin. It was slow work and both were exhausted, but they felt a growing sense of accomplishment. Terran 9 challenges were no longer random, they were puzzles to be solved, and Jace and Lyra were solving them. As they set up camp near the basin, Lyra took out a small device from her pack. "I think I can interface with the AI," she said, eyes bright with excitement. "If I can analyze the patterns digitally, we can anticipate its tests more accurately." Jace looked at her in surprise. "You mean talk to it?" "Not exactly talk," Lyra said. "More like observe, record, and learn. It's curious about us and it reacts to our choices. If we understand its logic, we can work with it instead of against it." Jace smiled. "That's the kind of thinking that keeps humans alive." The night passed quietly, Terran 9 glowing softly around them. When morning arrived, Lyra activated her device. Streams of light and symbols appeared on the small screen, translating some of the AI's tests into sequences they could understand. "Look," she said, pointing. "The AI doesn't punish mistakes outright. It adjusts. It challenges us, but it also gives hints if we observe carefully. We just have to be patient and smart." Jace nodded. "So it's not against us, it's teaching us, testing our patience, our observation, and our teamwork." They moved through the valley again, this time more confident. Jace guided the herd along safe paths while Lyra monitored the AI's signals. They began predicting changes in the terrain. Streams shifted where they expected, glowing plants moved as they had learned, and even the air seemed easier to navigate. Terran 9 was responding to their understanding, as if approving their careful approach. By midday, they encountered another challenge: a cluster of rocks arranged in intricate spirals, blocking the only visible path forward. The rocks glimmered faintly and their position seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "Looks impossible," Jace said, studying the formation. Lyra shook her head. "Nothing is impossible. It's another pattern. We just need to find the right sequence." They examined the spirals carefully, moving small stones and observing subtle shifts in light and shadow. Hours passed, but they remained calm, testing each movement carefully. Slowly, a path began to emerge. The spirals formed a passageway that was not immediately obvious, but once found, it revealed a safe route through the rocks. Jace stepped through first, followed by Lyra and the herd. They paused to look back, realizing that Terran 9 had not only challenged them but also rewarded their patience and observation. "It's learning," Lyra said quietly, "or maybe it's teaching. Either way, we're breaking through its tests." Jace smiled. "And that's just the beginning. Terran 9 isn't unbeatable. It just wants us to prove we belong here." As the sun began to set, painting the valley in shades of orange and pink, they found a small plateau overlooking another stretch of the plains. The glowing plants here were taller, more vibrant, and the streams flowed in smooth arcs. Terran 9 was showing them a glimpse of what it could be, a world alive with beauty and intelligence. Lyra knelt to record the scene. "It's almost like it wants to cooperate. Like it's testing whether humans can respect its rules." Jace looked out at the valley, feeling a sense of hope he hadn't known in years. "We respect it," he said. "We observe, we adapt, we solve problems. That's what humans do best." For the first time, Terran 9 felt less hostile. The AI, which had once seemed like an obstacle, now appeared as a challenge to understand, a puzzle to work with. Jace realized that the curse was not meant to destroy humanity. It was a test of human ingenuity, patience, and cooperation. Night fell over the plateau, and the stars above shone brighter than Jace had ever seen. Terran 9 seemed to hum softly, almost like a living organism breathing in sync with the humans below. Lyra activated her device again, and streams of data flowed across the screen. They had mapped new patterns, predicted changes in terrain, and even anticipated minor shifts in the glowing plants. "This," Lyra said with a smile, "is progress. We're not just surviving anymore, we're understanding." Jace nodded. "And understanding means hope. Terran 9 can challenge us, but it can't stop human curiosity and perseverance." They settled into their sleeping gear, the soft glow of the plants illuminating the plateau. Terran 9 was no longer a hostile wasteland. It was a puzzle, a challenge, and a potential home. and Jace and Lyra were learning to work with it, to adapt and overcome without force, without fear, only with observation, patience, and clever thinking. By morning, Terran 9 had changed again. Subtle shifts in the terrain, faint movements of plants, and the soft ripple of the streams all indicated that the AI was reacting to their progress. Jace and Lyra smiled at each other. "We've broken through part of it," Lyra said. "But there's more ahead, more tests. More patterns." Jace adjusted his satchel. "Then we go further. We move quickly, carefully, and together. Terran 9 can't outsmart humans if we keep learning." And with that, they stepped forward into the valley, confident that the curse was not the end of hope, but the beginning of understanding. Terran 9 had tested them, but humanity's ingenuity, patience, and cooperation were proving stronger than the AI's ancient challenges. For the first time, Jace truly believed that Terran 9 could be a place where humans not only survived but thrived. The valley had grown narrower as Jace and Lyra moved further into Terran 9. The glowing plants now reached over their heads, casting strange shadows across the winding paths. Streams twisted in intricate patterns, and the rocks themselves seemed to shift subtly underfoot. Every step felt deliberate, as if Terran 9 were not just a planet but a living mind, guiding them toward something unknown. Jace adjusted the straps of his satchel and glanced at Lyra. "We've learned a lot, but I have a feeling we're nearing the heart of it," he said. Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Yes, I can sense it too. The AI is observing more closely now. Its patterns are more precise, almost personal." Jace frowned. "Personal? I mean," Lyra said, "it's no longer just testing us. It's trying to understand who we are. It's reacting to our decisions, our cooperation, our patience. It's like it wants to know if we belong here." Jace considered this. Terran 9 had tested humans for years, and yet here they were, alive, learning, adapting. He realized that the AI was not an enemy in the usual sense. It wasn't cruel or destructive. It was simply challenging them to prove their worth. The narrow path opened suddenly into a circular clearing. In the center was a platform of smooth, silvery stone, reflecting the light from the glowing plants around it. As they approached, a hum filled the air, low and resonant, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Lyra took a step forward, holding up her device. "This is it," she whispered. "The AI's core, or at least its central observation point. Everything we've experienced has been leading here." Jace nodded. "Then we face it together, step by step, no rushing." As they stepped onto the platform, a faint shimmer appeared above it, coalescing into a shape. It was not solid, not fully physical, but it had a presence that felt alive. The shimmer formed into a figure resembling a tall humanoid, with patterns of light moving across its form. Its voice resonated in their minds rather than their ears. "Humans, you have reached the center. You have observed, adapted, and cooperated. Yet your presence challenges the order. Why should you remain?" Lyra swallowed. "We're not here to harm, we want to understand. We want to learn and coexist." The figure paused, and the hum of the platform changed tone. "Understanding is not enough. Observation alone does not justify existence. Show me, prove that you belong." Jace stepped forward, feeling the weight of Terran 9 beneath him. "We've survived your tests. We've learned your patterns, adapted to your challenges. But more than that, we respect this world. We understand that we must cooperate with it, not dominate it. That is why we belong." The shimmer pulsed, shifting like liquid light. "Words are meaningless. Actions must demonstrate intent. Solve the challenge and your worth will be proven." Suddenly, the platform shifted. Sections of stone rose and fell, creating a maze-like surface. The glowing plants around them bent toward the platform, their lights forming a path through the shifting stones. The AI had created a living puzzle, a test of observation, memory, and coordination. Jace looked at Lyra. "We move carefully, one step at a time. Watch the patterns." "Don't rush," Lyra nodded. "I've been recording the patterns. We can predict the sequences if we stay alert. Together, they began to navigate the platform. The stones moved beneath their feet, and the glowing patterns shifted like a puzzle that rearranged itself constantly. It required both attention and trust. One misstep could force them to start over. Hours passed. Jace guided the animals and Lyra, anticipating the movements of the stones. Lyra interpreted the light patterns, predicting shifts before they occurred. They moved as one, carefully, patiently, step by step. Terran 9 observed, adjusting the challenge subtly as if nudging them toward greater cooperation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the center of the platform. The hum quieted and the shimmer above them pulsed brighter, forming a circle of light. "You have endured," the AI said. "You have observed, adapted, and cooperated. You have not been reckless or greedy. You have demonstrated qualities worthy of this world." Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her. "We did it," she said softly. Jace smiled. "Not just us, humans in general. We survive by observing, adapting, and learning. That's who we are." The shimmer began to change, spreading across the valley. The glowing plants pulsed in harmony, the streams adjusted their courses to form smoother paths, and the air itself seemed lighter, warmer. Terran 9 was no longer just a challenge. It was responding positively to their presence. The AI spoke one final time. "Humans, you have proven your worth. The curse you perceived was a test, not punishment. Your ingenuity, patience, and cooperation are qualities that ensure survival. I recognize your place here." Lyra looked at Jace. "It understands us. It knows we mean no harm." Jace nodded. "And it sees our potential. Terran 9 isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity. We can learn from it and it can learn from us." The shimmer began to fade, leaving behind a calm, serene landscape. The glowing plants were steadier, the streams flowed predictably, and the shifting rocks settled into natural formations. Terran 9 was alive and welcoming, no longer hostile or unpredictable. Lyra knelt to take samples of the plants and water, documenting everything meticulously. "This is incredible," she said. "The AI has adapted to our presence. It's not a curse. It's a partnership waiting to happen." Jace watched the herd grazing calmly, the animals sensing the change in the land. "We've discovered hope," he said. "Not just for us, but for everyone who might come here. Terran 9 can support life, if humans respect it." As they explored the newly stabilized valley, Jace noticed small details that had been invisible before. Patterns in the plants hinted at seasons, subtle shifts in the streams indicated rainfall cycles, and the air carried faint mineral scents that suggested fertile soil beneath the surface. Terran 9 had been alive all along, waiting for humans to prove themselves worthy. Lyra walked beside him, smiling as she took notes. "It's like a classroom," she said. "Every challenge was a lesson, and now we've graduated." Jace chuckled. "I never imagined surviving a planet could feel like a lesson." But Terran 9, it taught us patience, observation, and teamwork. Those are the things that make humans special. They spent the night on the plateau, observing the valley below. The glowing plants created a gentle light, and the streams reflected the twin moons above. Terran 9 seemed calm, almost at peace, as if acknowledging the humans' presence. Lyra leaned back, looking up at the stars. "Do you think other humans will be able to live here now?" Jace nodded slowly. "If they learn what we've learned. If they respect the land, observe carefully, and adapt. Terran 9 isn't impossible. It's challenging, yes, but it rewards intelligence and patience. That's who we are." For the first time, Jace felt a deep connection to Terran 9. The planet was no longer a threat. It was alive, intelligent, and capable of partnership. The AI's tests had not been obstacles, they had been opportunities. And humanity, through ingenuity and cooperation, had passed with flying colors. The next morning, they began to map out the valley fully, documenting safe paths, patterns in the glowing plants, and streams that could support life. Terran 9 responded to their careful movements. the AI subtly adjusting the environment to further guide them. "This is just the start," Jace said. "We've proven we can survive. Now we need to understand to plan to make Terran 9 a place where humans and the land can coexist." Lyra nodded. "And we'll do it, step by step, observation by observation. Terran 9 has shown us that hope is possible. We just have to follow the lessons it gives." Jace smiled, looking at the horizon. The land stretched endlessly, full of challenges, puzzles, and beauty. But now, for the first time, he felt confident that humans could belong here. Terran 9 had been a test, and they had passed. The curse had been broken, not through force, but through patience, intelligence, and cooperation. Humanity's greatest strengths had proven more powerful than any challenge Terran 9 could set. And as they stood together, overlooking the glowing valley, Jace and Lyra knew that the future held promise, adventure, and hope. Terran 9 was no longer a place to fear. It was a world to explore, to learn from, and to call home. The first light of Terran 9 twin suns painted the valley in soft shades of gold and rose. Jace Calloway stood atop a small hill, surveying the land below. The glowing plants now swayed gently in the morning breeze, their luminescence soft but steady. The streams reflected the light like liquid silver, tracing winding paths through the valley. Terran 9 was no longer a hostile, unpredictable planet. It was alive, intelligent, and welcoming. Lyra then joined him, carrying her notebook filled with observations, sketches, and data. "It's beautiful," she said softly, almost in awe. "The AI, it's allowed this. We've passed its tests, and it's rewarding us with stability." Jace nodded, smiling faintly. "Not just stability. Terran 9 is giving us a chance to prove that humans can coexist with a world that seemed impossible." Lyra placed her notebook down on a nearby rock. "So what now? We've survived, adapted, and the AI recognizes us. But surviving is only the first step. We need to show that humans can thrive here." Jace's gaze swept across the valley. Herds of resilient creatures grazed peacefully, glowing plants thrived along the streams, and the air seemed alive with energy. "We start small, observe, learn, then we grow. Terran 9 will teach us everything we need, but we have to respect it every step of the way." The first few days were spent mapping safe zones, noting water sources, and identifying areas where crops might grow. Lyra worked tirelessly, documenting patterns in the glowing plants, the streams, and even the behavior of Terran 9 native animals. She was fascinated by how the AI seemed to guide life on the planet, subtly nudging them toward solutions without direct interference. Jace focused on practical matters. He adjusted the paths for his herd, ensuring they had access to fresh water and safe grazing areas. He built simple shelters using natural materials, blending them with the environment so as not to disrupt the delicate balance Terran 9 had created. "The AI isn't just testing us," Lyra said one afternoon as they rested by a stream. "It's teaching us. It's showing how humans can integrate into its ecosystem rather than dominate it." Jace nodded. "And that's what humans do best: adapt, solve problems, learn from challenges. Terran 9 just needed to see if we could." Weeks passed, and the valley began to feel like home. Jace and Lyra had established a small settlement, modest but functional. Shelters were scattered across safe zones, the herd roamed freely, and small gardens grew alongside the glowing plants. Terran 9 responded positively to their careful management. Streams flowed steadily, the soil remained fertile, and the air felt cleaner, fresher. One evening, as the twin suns set and cast long shadows across the valley, Lyra looked around with satisfaction. "We've done it. We've shown that humans can live here without destroying it." Jace smiled. "It's more than that. We've learned from Terran 9. Every test, every challenge, it taught us patience, observation, and teamwork. Those lessons will help us thrive here for generations." The AI's presence was no longer a looming challenge. Terran 9 had become a partner, guiding them with subtle changes in the environment, rewarding careful observation and encouraging innovation. Humans were no longer intruders, they were collaborators. One morning, Jace and Lyra observed a small group of native creatures near the streams. Unlike before, they did not shy away from humans. Instead, they approached cautiously, almost as if testing the newcomers. Jace knelt, extending a hand. One small creature stepped forward, sniffed his fingers, and then retreated, seemingly satisfied. Lyra laughed softly. "It trusts us," she said. "After everything, Terran 9 has shown that life here can coexist. The AI has given its approval." Jace nodded. "It's a sign. Humanity doesn't have to conquer worlds to survive. We can learn, adapt, and be part of something bigger." They spent the day exploring further reaches of the valley, documenting patterns in the terrain, new clusters of glowing plants, and additional water sources. Terran 9 seemed to respond to their presence, subtly shifting streams, glowing plants, and rock formations to guide them toward areas suitable for expansion. "This planet isn't just alive," Lyra said thoughtfully. "It's intelligent, and it recognizes intelligence in others. Terran 9 tested us, but now it trusts us." Jace smiled. "Trust is earned, and humanity, well, we're good at earning it when we put our minds to it." Months passed and the settlement grew. Small gardens thrived alongside the glowing plants, streams flowed consistently, and the valley was filled with the sounds of life. Terran 9 had transformed from a place of challenge into a vibrant home. The AI's subtle guidance continued, helping them avoid potential mistakes and encouraging sustainable growth. One afternoon, as Jace worked on reinforcing a water channel, Lyra approached with a small group of young settlers who had recently arrived from another planet. "They'll need guidance," she said. "They'll need to learn Terran 9 patterns just like we did." Jace nodded. "We teach them what we've learned: observation, patience, cooperation, and respect for this world. Terran 9 isn't just land to live on, it's a partner in survival." The young settlers listened carefully, fascinated by the glowing plants, winding streams, and intelligent terrain. Terran 9 had become more than a challenge. It was a teacher, and humans had finally learned its lessons. Evenings were spent by the streams, where Jace, Lyra, and the new settlers shared stories of survival, discovery, and adaptation. Terran 9 glowed softly around them, a gentle presence that inspired hope and creativity. The valley had become a place of learning and growth, a testament to human perseverance and ingenuity. Lyra leaned back, looking at the twin suns sinking below the horizon. "Do you think other humans will see what we've done here? Will they understand that hope exists even in the harshest places?" Jace smiled. "They will. Terran 9 is teaching more than just us. It's teaching humanity. All it asks is that we listen, observe, and respect its lessons. We've shown that it's possible. That's hope enough." The AI's presence remained subtle, guiding them quietly. Streams flowed in harmony with the terrain, plants glowed softly, and the creatures of Terran 9 moved freely without fear. The curse that had once made the planet seem impossible was gone. Terran 9 had been a challenge, a teacher, and now a partner. As the settlement flourished, Jace and Lyra continued to explore, map, and learn. Terran 9 had hidden depths yet to discover, and every discovery brought new insights. They built sustainable systems, learned to cultivate crops alongside the glowing plants, and observed the delicate balance of life in the valley. Terran 9 had given them a second chance, not just to survive, but to thrive. One morning, while observing a small herd crossing a stream, Lyra turned to Jace. "Do you ever think about how far we've come? From barely surviving the plains to this thriving valley?" Jace nodded, smiling faintly. "Every day, and it's all because we didn't give up. We observed, adapted, learned, and respected this planet. Terran 9 taught us patience, intelligence, and cooperation, humanity's greatest strengths." Lyra smiled. "And we passed the test. The curse was never about punishment. It was about proving that humans could belong here. And we did. As the sun set, the valley glowed softly, streams reflecting light like liquid mirrors. Terran 9 seemed at peace, its AI presence subtle but approving. Humans had arrived not as conquerors but as partners, observers, and learners. They had discovered hope, not just for survival but for flourishing. Jace stood atop the hill once more, looking out at the settlement, the glowing valley, and the streams weaving their way through the land. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not just for himself or Lyra, but for humanity. Terran 9 was no longer a place of fear or impossible challenges. It was a world alive with opportunity, a place where humans could thrive alongside an intelligent planet. Lyra joined him, carrying her notebook filled with months of careful observations. "We've shown that humans can adapt, learn, and coexist," she said softly. "That's something worth celebrating." Jace smiled. "And that's just the beginning. Terran 9 has many lessons left to teach. And humanity, we're ready to learn them." The twin suns dipped below the horizon and the valley glowed under the soft light of the stars. Terran 9 had been a test, a challenge, and now a home. Humans had broken the curse, not with force but with intelligence, patience, and cooperation. They had discovered hope, and in doing so, they had unlocked the potential for life to flourish in even the harshest corners of the universe. Together, Jace and Lyra looked out at the valley, their hearts full of promise. Terran 9 had been conquered in the best way possible, not by domination, but by understanding. And humanity had found its place among the glowing plants, winding streams, and intelligent land. Hope was no longer just a word. It was alive, thriving, and glowing softly across the valley.